Rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is 8:02 a.m. and you are listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. Keith Williams, first person I see. Good morning to you, Keith. It is Monday, the 15th of August, and I have to say, it's been a heck of a weekend, but I am in great spirits this morning. The reason why is because I got a lot of sleep last night. I did. I cleaned out my inbox. I got a brand new pair of shoes for my son for his first day of school coming up on Thursday. There will be no Good Morning Aurora on Thursday, by the way. And I'm ready, I'm motivated, I'm looking forward to today's discussion. We have a great show for you. We have Alyssa Marrero and Andrea Hasko-Marx. Okay, yep. I did it right?
You got it right.
All right, cool. First thing I learned doing this show, get the names right. Don't massacre it. These wonderful ladies work for AID, the Mobile Crisis Response Team. How you doing?
Good.
All
Great.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Good to see you both. Good to see you. So it's a Monday morning. How are you ladies feeling today? First of all, let's start with you.
Good. Ready to start the week.
All right. Ready and motivated and happy?
Yes.
Ready to
very
go.
Happy.
Yep.
All right. Andrea took me up on my coffee this morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have a brand new coffee machine in here. We got the industrial big boy, the Bun-O-Matic, and it felt good to make coffee and give it to the guests instead of the guests bringing me coffee. So I'm quite proud of that. Anthony Ortiz is here. Hola to you, dear sir, representing Elgin. So we got a lot to talk about today. A lot to talk about and a very important discussion. To start off with, I want to start off with 988.
Yeah.
Now that's something that's brand new. It's been around, but you said it was CES. Was it CESA was the name of the actual legislation that created it?
No, the legislation that created it on a national level I don't even know the name off the top of my head, but 988 is a national kind of movement. So 988 is a number that you can contact anywhere in the United States that you can dial 988 and get in touch with a mental health professional to discuss a crisis.
Okay.
Yeah, in Illinois, actually, there was some grants given out and legislation that established that allowed mobile crisis response teams to be created.
Okay.
So in Illinois, what's being developed right now is the ability to contact 988 and then have a mobile crisis response team dispatched to you if you're in a mental health crisis that would require in-person intervention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, for those who don't know, what is the Mobile Crisis Response Team? It sounds self-explanatory. Curtis, I know what it is. I can read. What is? Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So the Mobile Crisis Response Team is a new, like I said, it's kind of a new program that's being established throughout Illinois, specifically in our area, Kane and Kendall County. We are a 24-hour program that is available to anyone who's in a mental health crisis. There are no insurance requirements or age requirements. And basically you would contact us at our phone number, which is 630-966
9393.
No, 4347. Yeah, help. It's 630-966 help. So you'd contact that number and get in touch with a mental health professional who would determine if we could come out to your home, and we would come out, provide intervention for depression, anxiety. We've had folks who have suicide ideation. We can come out and just kind of chat with them. And it's a crisis counselor, so someone who's like a therapist comes out and can determine if you're safe, and then it's a recovery support specialist, which is Andrea's position. Yeah.
So Andrea may come to your door. Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
This is true.
All right.
Yeah.
Knock, knock. So no insurance necessary and no age requirement.
Correct.
So when the call is made, what does the assessment look like to determine if this is valid with which to go out to, or if this is something that, I mean, is there any cases that perhaps would be above what Andrea could potentially respond to? Like, I'm thinking in regards to safety.
Yes, so we do ask some general safety questions. We determine, we've asked questions about the person's presentation, if they're maybe more agitated or making threatening statements to themselves or someone else. We also do some suicide assessment, right? There are folks who are just, it's on their mind, and that, I think it's safe to say everyone has at some point went through that. That doesn't mean they need to go to the hospital, right? That doesn't mean we need to send them into the hospital and potentially hospitalize them. But there are folks who have kind of passed that bridge, right? They're now talking more about the plan, the act, and the attempt they're going to make. So we kind of assess even that to see, how serious is this? Are they able to access those means to actually carry that out? Do they have support around them? If we determine that we should go out, we will. And then we work with family members, other service providers to make sure that person's safe. And our goal really is to leave out them going to the hospital and the police. We want to keep the police from having to come into it. We would determine safety for, guns and things like that, but that doesn't always mean that they're unsafe. People could have those locked up, things like that. So it really depends a lot on the conversation you're having with the person as well. We've had community members call in who aren't even that person requesting response, they're family members. So some of it is secondhand information. So we're really having to just kind of take it case by case in that way.
Okay. The time is 8:08 a.m. Andrea, how many cases have you responded to?
So I've gone on one call out in the community so far.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've just started kind of a soft launch within Kendall County and 988. So just last week we started taking calls. At this point we've had about 10 or 11 going out into the community.
Okay.
So the other way you can get a hold of us if you're within Southern Kane, Kendall County, is by contacting 988. So kind of going back to that conversation, the long-term goal of 988 is that it'll be a central mental health dispatch system for mental health response. That's, again, not everywhere. That's just where we're at. We are able to provide that at this time. So if you call 988, if you are in a mental health crisis that exceeds maybe some over-the-phone intervention that they can provide, they can dispatch us out and we can respond to the home.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. The time is 8:09 a.m. Good morning to everybody. Maria Chirito is here. Good morning. Josie Mendoza-Geller says 988 is a wonderful resource accessible to all. Thank you very much for that. We're glad to hear this stuff. Karina LaFontaine, good morning to you as well. And Kay Collins Roberts says, fantastic idea. This was a long time coming, this type of program. And not to diminish law enforcement activities, but I think that we can agree that if somebody has potential thoughts of harming themselves or others or suffering from anxiety, perhaps the thing that you don't want is a gun and body armor involved. I mean, it's just people get more, or people are prone to be more nervous.
Yeah.
In a situation like that, and that can make things even worse.
Yeah. I mean, research and it all says that unfortunately, when police officers do get involved in situations like that, it will escalate that person's response. Because when you're in a mental health crisis, you're not doing anything wrong necessarily, right? And typically when police get involved, it's because they're intervening in someone maybe doing something they're not supposed to be doing, a crime. And I think this is really about taking a hat off of their shoulders, right? It's about saying, hey, we're here. We know how to deal with these situations. We know how to kind of execute response that makes these people feel safe. And we know how to contact resources in the community. We know how to connect these folks with things that are going to help them. A lot of times officers aren't equipped with that information and they're already dealing with so much. Like, it's not fair to expect them to also have to sit on all that when there's resources that exist that can do it. So we are collaborating with police in a way of like, hey, you guys have been going out to these situations. What do you see? How do you experience these? And they actually, what we're finding, have some interesting, really good relationships with folks in the community who they see often and who they've worked on building those relationships with, who are often in mental health crisis. But they're relieved. They're like, hey, we can hand this over to you now, and you can kind of do the next steps. So it's been really awesome to collaborate with them and understand kind of their techniques and going out in the community, being aware of safety measures, right? Being aware of those things and saying, hey, if I need to call you because I do feel unsafe, will you come? Can you come? How do we establish that and create a protocol and what that looks like?
What has the pushback been, and what does it look like? I was reading some kind of, so before 988 came, you would hear things like, well, what can a social worker do that a police officer can't? Like if somebody's robbing, would you rather have a social worker or a police officer? So I'm just curious of what's the pushback that you've heard or experienced, or share a little bit of that.
Well, I think it's important to remember that we're separating two situations, right? We're not going to be going out to someone who's robbing something.
Right.
That's not us.
Right.
And I think, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, is that there's never been anything put in place to support people in mental health crisis in the community. Whereas now we're realizing, hey, like we've only expected police to do this.
Right.
That's been their responsibility. There's been no acknowledgement of like, they're two separate issues. We're talking about mental health and criminal activity. They're not the same thing. So the pushback ultimately is, I think, people not being really not understanding what's actually happening, right? There's been a lot of concerns about safety. There's been a lot of like, how are you guys going to keep yourself safe?
That's what I'm thinking. Right.
The reality is social workers have been going out into the community for years. Mobile crisis response is not a new concept. Medicaid has often funded mobile crisis response teams, and they're going out into the home single staff. They're going out on their own, ultimately, into places that they don't know. They have no idea, the community they're going into. They don't know, when you think about DCFS caseworkers are going into homes with the potential of removing a child. There's always been safety concerns, but the percentage of times that something bad is actually going to happen like that is small. It really is small. People tend to focus on that, not recognizing that this is not new.
People, weren't we just talking about that before the mic came on?
Mm-hmm.
People saying that they know about it, but they're not in the industry?
Yeah.
The time is 8:14 a.m. APD does have a team to help deal with this too. Oh, that's right. They have the site team. I did speak to David Guevara of APD, and that was the discussion I had with King County Sheriff's Office the first time as well, which was pretty interesting. So now, when doing this work, and I want to, for those who don't know about AID, how long have you ladies been with AID?
So about a year now. I came on in September of last year, and then Andrea came on shortly after me.
Okay.
Just a little background. So I came on to essentially create the program with my director, Kim Buckheister. She's actually now the VP. There was a whole crisis structure change. My new director is Ashley Heinekamp. But over the last year, myself and Kim created a manual for this. We hired the team. We went through extensive training and determined what trainings we were providing to our staff. I have everyone assist trained, which is a suicide intervention training.
Okay.
I'm certified in training that. And then we worked on collaborating with the community, developing relationships, and kind of getting the team prepared to go out and start doing this. So a lot of background work in the last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Heavy burden. Heavy burden to lift. When training a team, I think you've mentioned it's your life's work, and you have passion for it. Are people ready to be trained for this, or are they mentally prepared for what this takes, or are we dealing with people who are just a novice in it and bringing them up? I mean, what's the, does that make any?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. I think it's across the board. I think that, first of all, working in crisis, it's a unique field to work in. You have to be prepared for that, whether it's from own personal experiences or just working in it over the years. It does take a kind of mental strength and stamina to pursue and endure. I came from domestic violence. That was my kind of first passion. I ran a domestic violence shelter in Joliet. And it was fantastic. It was a great experience, and I saw a lot of things, but it was very domestic violence focused. Still crisis oriented, but I saw a lot of mental health needs. So I was able to kind of come over into this field. And I've been able to hire people who, again, were never had any experience in this kind of environment, but did have a lot of lived experience, and were prepared for the challenge and ready to learn. And they've done a fantastic job. They really have really jumped in. And then I've had people who have done it, who have been in it. My director has been in crisis for 15 years. So she's had a lot of experience doing it. And so with that being said, it's exciting, right? It can be very exciting because you get to really help people. You get to see them in a serious time of need that you don't see your friends in, right? Or sometimes
Right.
you don't see people at that level. And so being a stranger and going to support that person, and it being a good outcome is a fantastic feeling. But there's also really hard days. So you have to be great with self-care. You have to prepare yourself in those moments. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. And there are people who are also very aware of that and are like, nope, 24 hours, not for me. I'm not going into people's homes. I'm not doing that. It's a safety concern. My mentality is police officers, EMS, they're 24-hour, they're needed. Physical health crisis does not ever stop. It doesn't matter when there's a pandemic. It doesn't matter when the weather is bad. It doesn't stop. And mental health crisis doesn't either. It doesn't ever go away. And so this is the same kind of operation as those entities. It has to be, or it will never be what they want it to be.
Yeah. And speaking of the pandemic, I can imagine that. So 98 is new, but I can imagine, Fred, that for a lot of the people that you deal with, a lot of the clients, the pandemic probably exacerbated whatever issue they already had. Can you talk about that a little bit? Can you talk about what you've noticed? I know you've been on since September.
Yeah.
Both you ladies have been on since September, but can you talk about, what you've noticed in regards to what the pandemic may have inflicted upon the people?
Yeah. So I can talk about a little
without giving away personal information.
Yeah.
Jimmy at 988 100th Street. Yeah, no.
So before I came on to AID, again, one of my initial interests in mental health was seeing how the pandemic impacted my clients' mental health in the shelter. I always refer to it as the mental health mushroom cloud, because they were coming in with domestic violence related issues, but had very real, undiagnosed, untreated mental health things exacerbated and just at the forefront that made everything else so much harder. And there were no resources to support them. Oftentimes police had to get involved because of how severe their decline would come, how quickly it would come. And it would result in hospitalization. It would be just really rough scenes. Kids were involved. It got really bad. And I hadn't seen it like that in the shelter before the pandemic started, right?
You say the shelter, which?
At my old
Okay,
experience, yeah. So when I found out about these programs being developed, I started pursuing applications, and eventually that's how I got involved in AID. So working at AID, we also work on our crisis line. That's where my program's kind of been hanging out on, and doing a lot of their interaction with clients. And so when I was working on this crisis line for the first time and just hearing some of the things that folks were going through, being isolated in their home for the last 2 years, there were people who I talked to who were, attorneys. I heard actually through a police department, they were talking about a scenario with an attorney that his whole life just changed. He could no longer function because there was an underlying condition there that the pandemic exacerbated because he had lost control, right? He couldn't control what was going on around him. It's unfortunate. The world events often, I think, are also exacerbate a lot of these people's responses. When Ukraine happened, we saw a spike in our crisis line numbers, a significant spike. People calling just worried, what's going to happen? Is people going to come take the country over? It really kind of made the paranoia intense.
Right.
Suicide, again, going back to that isolation, it ruined a lot of people's sense of connection. They struggle with connecting with people now, and it makes everything much more lonely and scary.
Yeah, that's it's sad to be in that kind of predicament. I personally, so when the pandemic happened, being alone in my house wasn't that bad for me myself. Just I missed my son and my mom and and his mom. I missed that, right? But the human interaction, everything wasn't even. It was, to start off with, it wasn't that bad for me, but it was my routine that started to slightly exacerbate my own anxieties, things like that. Like, I was still up at 4 a.m. drinking coffee and watching the news.
Yeah.
So, but now the cascade of problems. I have no job. I'm on unemployment. I have a 7-year-old. He still wants Rosati's, right?
Yep.
$50 a pop kind of thing, wings and pop and all that. And I was in a financially unstable position, which exacerbated all the other things in your life and what you're thinking about. So the worry starts creeping in. So I can only imagine that for those who had other underlying issues, like perhaps substance abuse, which I do kind of want to talk about that as well. I can only imagine that their ship was really rocked really bad. And I've kind of made a point on this show to say to people, like, look, some of us came out the pandemic and we're, quote unquote, okay now. Other people didn't.
Exactly.
And I think that we need to keep at least a cursory thought about the people who did not come out of it. All right, but I don't want to rant and yak about it. So good morning to everybody. Oh my gosh, it's 8:23. See, I told you.
It goes
right?
fast.
It goes fast.
Yeah.
Good morning to Michelle Gums. Ben Geller said something interesting here. I kind of want to piggyback on this real quick. More funding is required for training in these difficult responsibilities. Hence, the original definition of defund the police. Take funding which has been earmarked to police, give them additional responsibilities, mental, not criminal, and channel those funds back to the experts in the mental health field. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anita Lewis, good morning to you. Dora Sanchez Soto, great topic and love what direction and help this organization will bring to Aurora. Police will come out when any situation needs immediate attention. These situations need in-person fast response. That is very true. Very true. And Irene Robinson, good morning. All right, it's 8:24. I do want to talk about the substance abuse aspect of this too, but I do have those quick news topics to deliver to our wonderful guests. And we talked about movies, so let's make the conversation a little bit lighter. Dollar movies, ladies and gentlemen, are back at the Paramount Theater. The next upcoming movie will be Back to the Future, the original one, September 5th. Great movie. Shout out to Michael J. Fox. That's my man. Raiders of the Lost Ark is coming on September 12th. A fantastic movie as well. Gotta love some Indiana Jones. Encanto is coming September 19th, presented in Spanish with English subtitles. The original Clue from 1985 will be on September 26th, and Nightmare Before Christmas will be October 3rd. Good stuff. A really good movie. I like that movie. Tim Burton's a fantastic director. Have you noticed that all of his movies are kind of dark, though?
Yep.
A little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Ella. Just a little. There's no sun. It's all overcast. Life is like that sometimes. All right. Another piece of good news I told you guys about last week is that Aurora Central Catholic High School has a brand new head football coach and assistant dean, Christian Rago. He brings nearly 10 years of combined college and high school coaching experience to ACC. In his new role, Rago will lead training sessions, create game plans, direct players during gameplay, and provide one-to-one coaching as assistant dean. He will lead ACC's advanced fitness class program and aid with the planning, coordination, and administration of other school programs and activities. So shouts out to him. We hope that he has a successful tenure at ACC. The Chargers, they're a great school. We interviewed Sean Biederman. He's a baseball coach. Got to learn a whole lot about baseball. You ladies like sports? No. Like they are.
My brothers play football.
Yeah.
My husband likes basketball.
I'm not a sports fan either. I'm not. I I go to the party, I just go for the wings.
Right.
You know, chill out, mingle, have the wings. That's what I'm there for. Also, last piece of news here, Aurora Downtown once again will be turning downtown Aurora into Sugar Skull City from October 15th to November 6th to coincide with Day of the Dead events during the first Friday that'll take place on November 4th. The Sugar Skull themed art and market will be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Society 57 on Saturday, November 5th. So did you hear that? Scratch that, DJ. Right, I know what you're saying. Like, hold on, Curtis. You mean to tell me they're going to be a first Friday and the next morning art market? Yes, you heard it right. Started in 2020 by the Downtown Aurora Group, Sugar Skull City will feature dozens of participating businesses, a scavenger hunt, and activities for all ages while honoring a cultural and local tradition. As part of Sugar Skull City, Aurora Downtown announced a call for art. Artists of all skill levels are invited to submit a 12 by 18 inch work depicting pan de muerto, a traditional Mexican sweetbread used to celebrate Day of the Dead. So you'll be drawing bread. I like it. I like that. That's pretty cool. The time is 8:27 a.m. You are listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. Michelle Gum says food insecurity, underemployment, unemployment, financial trouble can be a catalyst to mental illness and can result in substance abuse. Yeah.
Yep.
But let's talk about the substance abuse aspect. From what you ladies have seen, what's the influence of substance abuse? What have we noticed in doing this work? And does AID have any resources that could potentially help folks who are struggling? We know there's organizations out there, but what have you seen doing this work?
What do you think?
Yeah, so I have lived experience with mental health diagnoses and substance abuse. And so, yeah, dual diagnosis. I am in recovery, and recovery will be a lifelong thing that I am in.
Right.
And so there are lots of resources that are available at AID, and a lot of resources that I have personally found that have helped me stay strong. And yeah, I need to pass those along and identify supports for people,
Right.
and be a model of recovery. So,
That's right. That's right. Yeah, AID. Here's what I learned. I didn't know that AID did so much.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They're huge.
You ladies, AID is the organization. I was looking at it on, this would have been Friday night. I was looking at it. You ladies have been, or AID has been the organization on Good Morning Aurora that has produced the most people to come on and talk about all of the services that you do. So I appreciate y'all very much.
Yeah.
So how can we help? So if anybody is suffering from substance abuse, is there a substance abuse division of AID?
So
or is there like a partner organization that you work with?
We will refer to, so like Gateway is one we will refer to. Our main, I would say, interaction for substance use would be the behavioral health program, but I don't think there's a substance use specific program within that.
Okay.
But they provide therapy, counseling, and you can be going through treatment for substance use. You can be referred to those services in that way. We also have Lindsay Hartman, who's actually been on here with Street Outreach. Yes, she's fantastic.
The homie. Shout out to Lindsay Hartman. She's Peach Riot on Instagram.
She has harm reduction. She does harm reduction. So harm reduction is focused on helping people use substances safely, right? So we can prevent overdose. We can prevent long-term lethal potential situations, right? So giving people like safe stuff to use, clean stuff. There's so much. They get a card if they participate in the program that helps prevent them from getting in trouble with law enforcement in certain ways. And so that's a lot of the main interaction, I would say, within AID. And then now, given that we have our recovery support staff, it's not focused on like supporting just addiction, but we have a broad range of staff who have had experience within that. So they're really, I would say, well versed in the process and how to get people the treatment that they need.
Philip Marrero, good morning to you. If you're just joining us, we're here with AID, the Mobile Crisis Response Team, Alyssa Marrero and Andrea Hasko-Marx. New friends, right? Mm-hmm. We homies now. That's I love it. Michael Rayford is here. Good morning to you, Michael Rayford. Michael, I saw your email about your event that will have to be tomorrow morning's news. I cannot pivot. That's why we got to have, you know what? We got another intern coming soon. That's another story. Maria Torito, good morning to you as well. And Kay Collins Roberts says, fantastic idea. Now, hold on a second, because I did want to read. Excuse me. Cindy Morales, good morning. Michelle says, keep fighting and being a positive change. You guys, this is something I've noticed about the large organizations, right? I see that there's more of a community focus now, as opposed to just being the corporate organization that has services. Mm-hmm. I feel like, and I'd like your opinion on this, I feel like it used to be the hours of the organization, whatever it was, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Mm-hmm. So if it didn't care what you were going through, if you were not there between the hours of Monday through Friday, if you called later, it was just a voicemail. Mm-hmm. I think that's changed now, and I see more of a human element in organizations. Am I wrong? How do you feel? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier about mental health. People are starting to view it closer to this 24-hour, anything could go kind of situation, in the same way a heart attack could happen, right? Like, I could have a panic attack so bad that I think I'm having a heart attack at 2 a.m., just like I could have a heart attack. And instead of saying, oh, we're going to have to go to the hospital, see how it goes, and then you just go through the loops in the ER and you're there for hours, right? For them to say, oh, it's anxiety. Go see a doctor, get some meds, and that's the end of it. Where 2 a.m. you can call us, we're coming out, we're talking with you, we're saying, hey, sounds like it's anxiety, but also here's some numbers, here's some information, here's some coping skills, here's some grounding tools to use. So the next time it happens at 2 a.m., you've got some resources to access, and you're not thinking that, oh my God, my life's over, am I having a heart attack right now, I'm going into the emergency room, right? And so, yeah, I think that there is more of an acknowledgement now that we are human beings. We have lives. People have jobs. We can't go to the therapist all the time at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. It might have to be 7 p.m., right?
Right, yeah. We don't not always have that luxury.
Right, yeah.
What do you like most about what you do?
Oh, I would say I like working with people. Like, I like learning about people and their experiences. I think that there's always a situation I go into and I can take something out of it that I can apply into a new situation. Meaning interacting with a kid, right? Like, I interact with a teenager for the first time really as a social worker in a long time. And then what I remember is kids think very differently than adults. So I get to, be very cognizant of those things. I get to hear really cool stories too. My favorite part about, I think, being a manager on this team is meeting the recovery support specialists, because their journey and where they're at is always really inspiring. And it makes me really excited about where I think crisis intervention and mental health is going. Because people are acknowledging that there can be a rainbow there sometimes. You just got to go through some bumps and hurdles and take care of it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My dad used to say it gets greater later.
Yeah.
It does. You may not see it when you're 13.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it when I was 13, but it does. It does. What do you like most about what you do?
Yeah, what I like most about what I do is instilling that hope in people. I survived so that I can thrive, and I want to help other people to do that. My story is my best asset to give to other people. So giving that hope is what I'm there for. Yeah.
It must feel good to change a person's mind. Mm-hmm. I mean, that, you know what I'm talking, like, they thought there was no hope.
Exactly.
But then they meet you or hear your story or hear one of our stories, and they're like, you know what? maybe I can.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
I can.
I was in that spot too, where I thought there was no hope. So,
Right.
I can relate on that.
Right.
Mhm.
So now AID was at First Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were
How
there.
was that?
It was great. The
Okay.
turnout was fantastic. People were really interested. We've done a couple kind of community events like that, and one of my favorite parts is hearing the people's stories, because it's like you say mental health and people are like, I'm going to come talk to you.
Right.
So they tell you that it's like, hey, I just got out of the hospital, this would have been great. Or someone else came by and was like, I wish this existed when my son was alive before he suicided. Like they open up, and it makes it so much more powerful because there's just an awareness that it's needed.
Right. Plus, too, I think that the idea of a counselor has changed too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing that too. Counselors look different now.
Mm-hmm.
Like people like you ladies.
Mhm.
It's not, again, speaking back to what used to be the rigidity of services.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience, right? You walk into the office, you got the glass, you knock on it, the lady is, she doesn't even want to be at work. How can I help you?
Mhm.
Have a seat, and that's it. And there's no human element to it. So I've been in situations where I've been sitting in that office, and I'm thinking, why am I? You know what? I'm out of here,
Mhm.
right? Like this is emotionally draining for me to be here,
Yeah.
and I haven't even been able to tell the story or to talk about what I, want to talk about and everything. So as our viewers say, we appreciate what you ladies are doing. So much appreciated. You are inspiring many. That's what Cindy Morales says. Good morning, Cindy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ben says, I like this camera view better. I don't have to see Curtis's backward cap. You know what? You got jokes. Yeah, we got a button for that too. Ben Geller's a friend of the show. Good morning to you, Ben. And Beto Quinones, good morning to you as well. All right, so what's next for the Mobile Crisis Response Team? What's on the horizon, and do you have any calendar events coming up?
So we will be at the Kane County Cougars game. I think it's this Sunday for their mental health day. And then starting August 22nd, we are officially taking calls from anyone in the community. So you can call using 988 or that 630-966-HELP. That will get you directly linked with our mobile crisis response team.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are the areas that you serve?
So Southern Kane County and all of Kendall County. So I think mostly most parts of Aurora. There's like one or two parts, but we will transfer it off to the other organization that we don't know does service an area if it's like not our coverage area. So we can also help people and link them to the correct contact if they do get a hold of us and we can't provide services to their area.
At the moment, although we know that a crisis can occur anywhere, at the moment, where are we seeing the greatest amount of need? Is it higher in Kane County? Is it higher in Kendall? What's been noticed so far?
So I would say it's a little too soon to tell, just
Okay.
because some of our referrals have come because we've been working directly with Kendall County Sheriff's Department.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of helped. And then 988, like I said, they just got our number late about like a week and a half ago. I think we've kind of probably went out calls equally between Kane and Kendall at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll have to see going forward.
Okay. What's it like working with the Sheriff's Department?
It's good. We're working with CIT and they're really helpful. They're excited about the program. It's a lot of learning. It's very new. People are really trying to understand what we can do and how we do it. And I think that once everyone gets that down, we'll be smooth sailing from there. I hope.
Learning how you do it? What's that?
Yeah, so like learning, what calls we should be going out on or when they should be calling us, learning how to work amongst each other, And so coordinating what that looks like. So again, like I was saying earlier, if we do feel that we need a police officer to come out to the home, making sure that they know who we are, because I don't want to just call and say, hey, this is a mobile crisis response team. We're here. Can you come? They're going to be like, who are you? Why are you there? What's going on?
Right.
So just building that and making sure that it's a good foundation as we move forward.
Where do you ladies see, given this initiative and given the work being done, let's hypothesize, where do you see the community and this in the next 5 years? What do you think the next 5 years will look like with this kind of intervention?
So what's actually really awesome about that question is this whole model was structured off of SAMHSA's, which is Substance Abuse Mental Health organization for the federal government. So like think FDA, but for substance abuse and mental health. They created a whole model or toolkit for the ideal crisis care system in our country. They based it off of a couple different pilot programs in states in the US as well as other countries. I think Canada's got something and one other country. So the ideal crisis care system, the first step was 988. The first step was a 3-digit number that anyone could call to access mental health crisis response. The second step was establishing mobile crisis response teams. So not every state is on board with that part. I don't know. I can't speak for every state. I can only speak for where Illinois is at in that. And then the third phase is a crisis response units, or like 24-hour living room models, where someone can go who's in a crisis, but maybe it doesn't need hospitalization. It just needs some observation and some separation from the situation or things like that. They can go there for 24 hours. There's smaller pieces within that, so like transportation and how our teams will transport and all of that. But the estimation is that it'll take about 5 years for all of that to be cohesively existent. It doesn't mean it's guaranteed, right? The way the state of Illinois describes it is we're flying a plane and building it at the same time.
Right.
Because the need is so high, we're doing everything we can to get it going. But it's essentially a mental health model for 911, like separating it from 911, right? So 911 is we need help for danger stuff, right? And then this is for mental health. So 911 took about 20 years to look anything like it does now. 988, for it to be the full cohesive process they want it to be, I think it'll take about 5 to 7 years is what they're kind of estimating. So my hope is that I would love it for that to be stabilized by then.
Right.
Yeah.
3 parts, 988 being the first, mobile crisis response teams being the second, and then CRU, crisis response unit.
No, crisis stabilization unit.
Stabilization unit. Okay.
Yeah.
Crisis stabilization unit. All right. How can people contact the mobile crisis response team?
Yeah, so they can call us through 988. Or it's 630. I need to make sure I'm giving you the right number because we just launched this number last week.
See, people ask me all the time, Curtis, what if I don't know? What if I don't have it right? You can look on your phone on the, go ahead. Bring notes, whatever.
It's 630-966-4357. So it's help. Yep.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is 8:44 a.m. You are listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. We have 2 new friends today of our new, well, I don't want to say new, but our great, fabulous organization who've been friends, AID, the Association for Individual Development. Alyssa Marrero and Andrea Hasko-Marx. If you need help, you can call 988 or 630-966-4357. That's 630-966-HELP. A couple quick pieces of news, and then we'll get back to the last leg of our discussion here. Ben Geller, great explanation, dialogue. Thank you for the simplicity. Absolutely. Emily says there's an app called Hear Me for people who just need someone to talk to in a non-emergency situation. That's good to know as well. Medea's here. Good morning. Tracy Duran, good morning. And Carla Marrero. Is that mom?
No, it's my sister-in-law.
Okay. See, I've been doing this long enough. I go to mom first. People say, hey, it's my mom's watching. I know. People are proud. Joanna Ruddy, good morning to you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let me see here. That's going to be Friday. The FEC is going to be at the Aurora Public Library at 6 p.m. on the 18th. That's Thursday. This will be in person and streamed online at the Aurora Public Library's Facebook page. This will be held in room 125, the Santori Branch here in downtown Aurora on River Street. Learn about the fantastic Financial Empowerment Center. All of their services are free, and they exist to help Aurorans figure out credit, understand budgeting, and financial coaching. Now, Saturday, September 25th from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m., there will be a Kane County Expungement Clinic hosted by the Office of the Kane County State's Attorney and the Kane County Circuit Clerk. Registration is required, and this will be at the Gale Borden Public Library in Elgin. Staff from the Circuit Clerk's office will be on hand to answer questions and for assistance. For more information, you can contact the Office of the Circuit Clerk at the flyer which we have shared. October 16th, Marie Wilkinson's Food Pantry is having their Fill the Bowls event at Gaslight Manor. This will be from 1 to 4 p.m. It'll be a lot of fun. Raffles, live music, and a wine pull. You had me at wine pull. That's going to be going down. For more information to purchase tickets, you can visit Marie Wilkinson's website. We have shared this post. If you're not following Good Morning Aurora on Twitter, you're missing out, really are. So follow us on Twitter, and you can see all of the great news that we have on there as well. And last but not least, get ready for Saturday, September 10th, the Kids Expo. This will be taking place at Phillips Park. Hosted by State Representative Stephanie Kifowit, it'll be held from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is a free and fun event open to the public and will be held rain or shine. For more information, you can call 630-585-1308. That number again is 630-585-1308, and tell them that you heard about it on Good Morning Aurora. Bring the family out for a good time. We hope to see you there. The time is 8:48. Okay, so we talked about the substance abuse portion. I do want to talk a little bit about domestic violence. Now, your background, Alyssa, is in domestic violence. Mm-hmm. With all the issues that we've talked about that have been contributing factors to some of the trauma that folks are facing, which may cause them, in your opinion, I know this is new program, everything, we're still gathering data. To what degree does domestic violence play a part?
I would say, a lot. Domestic violence is everywhere, right? Like, right. To the point where people are living in it day to day and don't even realize it in even very small ways.
Right.
And so I definitely would say that it's contributing to mental health, but I think what's also kind of happened over the last 2 years is the ability to isolate has increased. So a big part of domestic violence is isolation. It's taking someone and controlling them and limiting their ability to interact, whether it's financially, within jobs, within relationships, family relationships, things like that. And so we've allowed that to happen. We've allowed that to happen. The structure of how the pandemic went down and everything has created the perfect opportunity for those things to happen, right? So that's definitely increased the potential for abuse to occur. But across the board, domestic violence impacts mental health, no matter what. It's kind of like that chicken and egg thing, right? Like, what came first? Being controlled, being put down, being abused for however long you went through that can have long-term effects on your mental health. So I guess that's kind of a hard question to answer, because it's so relevant,
right,
with or without how bad things have gotten or how things are,
No, yeah, I totally understand. So, and again, I'm a novice and I'm learning this, as we talk. And the groups like AID and organizations like yours that I talk to, I learn something. I learn a lot mm-hmm. doing this, because I guess naively rather, I've always been under the impression that, take Mutual Ground, for example, mm-hmm. right? I've always been under the impression that there was no problem that they couldn't solve.
Gotcha.
Now, when you're on the outside looking in, that seems plausible.
Yeah.
But when I talk to ladies like you and learn about the Mobile Crisis Response Unit, I see oh wait, I was wrong.
Yes. Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm
now.
saying? I was wrong, and I don't want to, like, I guess my fear is I don't want to diminish anybody's story or struggle. You know, I like to make sure my I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, because I wouldn't want anybody to not be able to, like, share their story. So like the domestic violence is important to me, because if there is somebody who can benefit, I wouldn't want them to think like, oh, this organization only does ABC.
Gotcha. So, and I guess that goes back to my comment of domestic violence is everywhere, because someone could be in a mental health crisis not seeking domestic violence support,
right,
and they can still call us. Absolutely, right? When I was talking earlier about my former job and what I was seeing with my clients was that we were very domestic violence focused. Domestic violence there's a professional certification you get behind that because of how intricate the psychology behind it is, because of the laws and the legal stuff behind it, right? So there's all kinds of trainings you have to go through to be a domestic violence professional in general, because it is so specific. So what was happening is we were doing the domestic violence support, getting them encouraged to become stable or be I can't think of the word right now. Independent, yeah. Become independent from their abuser. And a lot of it was empowerment, empowering them to be that person. But when you're also dealing with mental health, you're dealing with Medicaid, you're dealing with not getting the letters on time, you're dealing with your children being homeschooled from a hotel, you're dealing with a pandemic, you've gotten laid off from your job, or you're dealing with unemployment, not improving your unemployment for 3 months and having no income. So now you can't get housing. It all kind of spirals, right? And so we couldn't necessarily deal with all that extra stuff. I can't make Medicaid move faster. I can't get you in to a psychiatrist because they have a wait list. I can't do those things. And so that's where this mobile crisis response kind of thing made so much sense to me, because there were so many times I was sitting there like, I cannot go, I can only do so much in this setting, in this scenario. I need another person. I need another party. And that's that idea of connecting those services. Now, if we're talking about going to the home, right, of a person who's in a domestic violence situation, we've talked a lot about how to be aware of that. There's safety concerns for us in that scenario and that person, right? So the best thing we could do is provide them resources if we noticed, but we would still address their mental health crisis.
Right.
If they're struggling with anxiety or depression and they start telling us what's going on and it kind of sounds like it's domestic violence, there are ways to go about that, right? There are ways to do it in a safe way, because they need to be ready to hear what it is, if that's what it is. But also, we don't want to set off any red flags or alarms for the other people in the home. I totally
understand. I totally understand, yeah.
So yeah, we can
Discretion
definitely
is important.
Correct. So but our goal is to connect them with the service that's going to provide them the best intervention. So we wouldn't be the domestic violence professionals in that setting. We would say, hey, here's some information to mutual ground. There's domestic violence counselors there. They can help you through this process. They can talk to you about what you need. If you're ready to leave or when you're ready to leave, here's shelter as well. In the same way that if we went to a home of families who maybe have children who have autism and they're struggling with getting overstimulated and maybe have an outburst, right? And the families didn't know there were groups available. We could say, hey, here's some brochures on groups for parents who are learning how to parent children with autism. Right. So our goal is to connect. Our goal is to connect them with those outside resources.
Michelle says, thank you for addressing the non-violent side of abuse. I've read many articles about the covert narcissist, a very dangerous type of human. And Nora Peterson says, thank you for all you do on behalf of domestic violence victims. It's one of the things, again, it's one of those things that I learned more about, because, even as bad as I may have had it, somebody's always got it worse. And you think about being locked up with a person who is, again, exacerbating what you're already going through. They're not making it any easier. You did talk about, you talked about Medicaid. You can't make Medicaid go faster. Mm-hmm. I work in housing, and we had this was a couple months ago, but Ida they had a rent assistance program and a mortgage assistance program, where basically if you had a reduction on your income due to COVID, they would pay your landlord, for example, your back rent. The The problem was that if you're 4 months behind on your rent, right, it's going to take, if you get approved, it could take 90 days for you to receive a payment. So you're still going to be behind. And I would tell folks, listen, I cannot make the state of Illinois go any faster. But what I can do is help connect you to local resources that could perhaps, hopefully, fill in that middle part, right? That gap to perhaps pay 1 or 2 months of your rent to get you squared away as you wait for that. But that's always the if portion. So the question I'd like for you ladies or to ask you is, what is the best case scenario? Like if you had a magic wand, right? What would be the next thing that could really help be a positive force in what you're doing?
If I had a magic wand, I'd do a lot of things.
You know, like if the state did this, or if this was, then things would really, really help. Or is there legislation that's going through right now, or being passed or being debated that could really help and serve folks, in your opinion?
I mean, yes, but I also, that's such a hard question for me because there are things I think about on a daily basis. If the state would just,
right.
I mean, I think housing is a big thing right now for a lot of people.
It's a, you know,
I'm like,
no, yeah, no, it's something to think about. And
yeah.
I ask because I do take part in a lot of different discussions. They're on housing and they're on substance abuse and things like that. So when people ask anybody have any questions, I've always got a question. I've always got some kind of thing to throw out there. So
yeah,
you know, I apologize if that was kind of ramshackle and scrambled like an egg, but you know, I think the brainstorm kind of helps a little bit.
It does help, and I think to hone that in, right, to say like this is what our program would really need, because I know there's a lot of legislation being worked on. Some of it's controversial, so I'm a little hesitant on like just naming it. I'm like, I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think for me right now, getting this program going, getting 988 cohesively working together, a lot of it has been a background of involvement of state entities, right? And communication is just a big, I think, lapse. But in the same regard, we're dealing with a lot of moving pieces. We're dealing with a lot of different parties here. We're dealing with social service agencies. We're dealing with police departments and 911 dispatch. And then we're dealing with 988, which is a whole entity on itself. So it's hard. The reason the question's so hard for me is because it's a lot of things that no one person could control.
Absolutely. No, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. No, I feel there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts. And again, I guess my next question is how can we help you, right? Yeah. How can the community help AID and the Mobile Crisis Response Team?
I would say getting the word out for sure. That is the biggest thing right now, because for me, my mentality is we have to show need to continue to exist. So we need people to use our services ultimately. So getting the word out and letting people know that this is something that's happening and it is something that's available. On the crisis line, before we were up and running, we got a lot of calls where people were like, hey, my sister is going through X, Y, and Z. She's never had this happen to her before. Is there anyone that can come out? I don't want to have to call the police, but it's getting a little scary. And we weren't ready yet, but it was so frustrating because it was like, right. Well, I only had a couple more people staffed, like we could go. And so now that we're here, I want people to know that we can come and that they have another option. It's not always just having to call 911 or go to the emergency room.
Right, right. Yeah, I've seen situations where I know that the police are. This doesn't require police, but that's the only option. You know.
Yes.
If the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to be a nail. Mm-hmm. And that's quite unfortunate. And I'm glad, but I'm glad that we're getting out of that. Mm-hmm. I am. It makes me extremely happy to talk to organizations like AID and talk about stuff like that, because as we talked before the mic and the camera came on, right? You can learn about a lot of stuff on social media and TV. If you want to find out what Beyonce ate this morning, everybody will tell you that. Mm-hmm. But if you aren't eating, and if you're hungry, And if you don't know where to get food, that is not going to do you any good.
Right.
Now you look last First Friday. Is First Friday going to be a normal thing for the team?
It's something I'd like to continue to do as we get the word out for sure. I haven't asked about next First Friday.
Oh, you know movies too, girl.
I haven't asked about the next one, but likely, yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah, come out. You know, we're out there.
Yeah,
we love to hang out with you, take some selfies, and see you. And if you, we would, as you can see here with the news, we'd like to have you guys on there and always talk about you and pump you up and everything. The time is 9:01 a.m. We went over. How about that? The show ends on a positive note. What is your message today to the people of Aurora, Kane, and Kendall County, anywhere you serve?
I'd say things are changing. Don't be afraid if you're having mental health issues, because things are changing and there are resources out there to help people. It's still scary, but if we continue to move forward and advocate for this, I think the next 5 years will be in a really good place.
I agree. That's
yeah,
great.
and you are not alone. There is hope, and there are people that can relate to you.
You are not alone. Very good words. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you enjoyed this interview like we did. I think this is a fantastic way to start the week off on a strong and a positive note with helpful information. Don't forget, if you need help, there are 2 numbers for you. 988 and 630-966-HELP. That number is 630-966-4357. Thank you very much to the Association for Individual Development and the Mobile Crisis Response Team. We will see you on Tuesday. There will be no Good Morning Aurora on Thursday, but we will return Friday. Take care of yourself and each other.
Yeah!